Hi, everyone. So glad to have you here today as you're joining today's Friday Forum. I'm just really glad to have you here. I'm also glad to have my guest, Mark Cruver. We're going to have a great conversation today about AI. So if you're familiar with my Friday Forums, as you log in, I love to see who you are, where you're from, and today's question is, have you used ChatGPT or some other AI? So if you can put that in the chat, not only is that beneficial for Mark and I to know, but it also helps each of you to see kind of what's going on. So log in and put in your name, your location, and have you used ChatGPT? My name is Cyndy McDonald. I am an educator. I'm an entrepreneur. I am an instructor for the UCLA College Counseling Certificate Program. So many of you I've had in my classes. Glad to have you here. And I'm also, since COVID, a producer. So I've been producing the Friday Forum ever since COVID started. So I've been having so much fun and been privileged to have so many different people come on to my show to talk about current events and things that affect us in our lives. And Mark, today I think what we're talking about is top of mind for everybody. Is AI going to take over the world? Is it going to take over our jobs? You know, if you went and saw the recent movie Mission Impossible, like there's a computer that's just going to, you know, take over everything. So I find that very interesting that this is kind of where we're at. So
absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely kind of taking over our minds, that's for sure. And everybody's thinking about it, talking about it. But it was funny, you know, just a couple of days ago, I was at Starbucks and I happened to ask a couple of strangers there. Of course, in any room I'm in, I'm never fearful of getting to know someone I've never met before. So I came up to him and I said, "Hey, I got a question for you." While we're standing in line waiting for our coffee, I said, "Have you ever used ChatGPT? And do you know that the two people that I actually talked to in line had never even heard of ChatGPT?"
Oh,
And I
really?
was blown away, had never even heard of it. So it's true that depending on the circles that you're kind of working in and living in and associating with, will really truly depend on how embedded you are in the knowledge of ChatGPT. So, and it's driven by a lot of different factors, some of which is fear, right? Fear has really driven whether or not we get engaged in it. And sometimes we kind of stiff arm new things. We don't want to get involved in those. But truly, this has been a really remarkable journey since it has come to our worlds, and the ability for us to be able to utilize it. It's definitely changed the way we do many things.
And it will continue to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and as we learn more about it and become more familiar with it, and there are more applications, you know, that all is going to evolve and build up. So let me introduce you to everybody. Mark, so glad we already have over 40 people on our call today. And you can see we've got people from San Francisco, Washington, North Carolina, Georgia, Orange County, Houston, just everybody from all over. So this is something that is impacting all of us. But Mark is often referred to, you're referred to by many as the AI navigator, which is why I wanted to have you here. Mark's journey has been anything but artificial. When Mark isn't working with students, so you're one, you know, you work with students, you've been a college advisor and supporting parents as the founder of Capstone Educational Consultants. He's teaching others how to unleash the power of AI on their business branding, messaging, social media content, marketing campaigns, and more. He has distinguished credentials as an independent education consultant. He's written articles in AI and education for the Gen AI newsletter. That's a mouthful. He's Jasper certified, earned a certificate in AI and business, mirrored from UCLA Berkeley's AI and business course. I know you've worked with professors, on those programs. I've heard you at the conference. And author of Help, My Teen Isn't on Track to College, and 10 Tips for Parents on the College Admissions Process. So that's quite a lot,
That is quite a
you've
lot.
done. And that speaks to your journey. I mean, this isn't something that you just started in November when chat kind of hit everybody's consciousness. So
my journey started quite a ways back, back when I was the director of admissions and enrollment management at a small private Christian liberal arts college in the state of Tennessee. Had the honor of being in that role for 10 years. And from there, went out to work with my father-in-law for several years. Of course, you know that it's a limited amount of time you should ever work for family, right? And really wanted to go back to my true love, the roots of where I really had a passion of working with students. I started Capstone Educational Consultants in 2012, and of course, I've grown that since then. But in the spring, in January of 2021, I had this, actually it was December, this is the December before that January, so it was 2020. Of course, none of us had much to do but to go through social media, because we were all sitting at home. But I had the opportunity, because I was kind of flipping through my social media, came across this ad. And I know we all hate ads on social media, but there's value, right? And it intrigued me. So I began to explore it further. And in January of 2021, I had the opportunity to participate in what was then one of the very first book challenges. It was a 7-day book challenge. And the challenge was that you could start from nothing and go to a completed book in 7 days using artificial intelligence. And I was like, what? I just had no idea that was even possible or was a thing. It definitely intrigued me. I hopped on and was blown away by the fact that I, in fact, completed the book in 7 days. It was amazing. And many say, well, then Mark, that's not your book. And I'm like, yes, it is, because after it was written by AI, through my assistants, I had spent countless hours going through it to make sure it was all my word. So it's pretty amazing, the process that it went through. It wasn't until the end of that year that ChatGPT actually came out on scene for everyone to start using. In fact, I had not used ChatGPT myself until you started using it, but I had been using a software of which I used to create the book called Jasper. And I'll introduce you to that here later in this forum, but had the opportunity to really get engaged in how to utilize, how to prompt, how to speak to AI in order for it to produce results that you were really looking for, not just in the world of writing a book, if per se, or even a blog, but how to write a really cool subject line of an email. In fact, I used it this morning to write a subject line email for my email, because I sat there for 15 minutes trying to figure out, no, I want this to pop, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, ChatGPT can help me. So I went into Jasper and it helped me create a subject line in a matter of seconds. And I was like, why did I wait? It threw me. So, but it was wonderful. But using it and learning how to utilize the resource more effectively for the needs that I have daily has moved my productivity to levels that I'd never known it was possible.
And I think that's the key, is that it doesn't replace what we do, but it enhances and it can speed up the things we're able to do.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I had a conversation I was telling you about a friend who's a coder, and that's what he mentioned too, is that, it's sped up. He's using it for coding and creating very innovative things. And he says, you still must be a knowledgeable programmer, skilled in debugging and integrations to review everything it does, but it speeds everything up for him. So, we talk about this term and we hear it, but what does it mean? Have you heard a definition of AI? when we think about that term, what should we use as a definition?
Yeah, well, when we think about AI, of course, that's artificial intelligence, right?
Mhm.
When we think about AI, a lot of things come to mind. At least we think about Terminator, right? We have all these movie analogies, movie contexts that kind of come back to us. All of my Star Trek fan friends out there, kind of
2001: A Space
right,
Odyssey,
right.
right?
That's the technology that kind of is referenced, and then of course our mind quickly progresses to a world that is no longer run by human hands, right? And so the artificial intelligence part becomes a very frightening aspect. But truly, if we boil it down to kind of a single sentence, right, of what AI truly is defined as, and we're talking about technology that is designed to emulate human behavior. It doesn't say that it is human behavior. It's not going to replace that human behavior, but it emulates it, right? It produces something, but it's still technology. It's artificial as it relates to the intelligence, but it's to emulate what humans are able to or capable of producing themselves. In this particular case, in the case in which I utilize it, it is for productivity, for ideas, for development, for expansion. It's to take thoughts and make them concepts. And it's to truly supplement maybe, and I'm going to use the H word, and if you don't mind, don't misconstrue what I'm saying here, but it's to take our own personal handicap, that which we're not able to do, and make it possible. And when I sit here and think about myself, there are many things I'm unable to do, but now I can do. I can take a kind of things a step further. But aside from me, when I start thinking about my students and the things that they're unable to do, and that even those that come to the table who have the discrepancies or have and again, I'm going to use the word, but loosely, handicap, they're not able to do some things that others are able to do incredibly well. It supplements, it gives them strength, it gives them confidence, and it shows it in their own voice. And to me, that is like a gift. And this is why I've embedded myself in the AI, I should say the art of AI, in trying to teach others on how to utilize it in their own business practices and otherwise.
So is there a difference between using AI in your business and your own writing and your own marketing and that kind of thing, and what having students use AI? And we're going to have a Friday forum with Brad Schiller in September, so we'll talk about that specifically. But I know right now we're all working with students. The Common App just came out, and this is number one question on the top of our minds. So what's the difference?
Yeah, so there is a difference, but there's not a difference. How's that for an answer? Is that like clear
that
enough?
Sounds like an educational consultant answer.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
That's the political answer for me. No, but there is a difference because the focus is very different. The utilization of AI is different. And so when you're starting to use it for marketing purposes, it's pretty phenomenal that I can ask ChatGPT to create a customer funnel for me and provide me a series of emails that I should send for a particular campaign, and with an outcome of 10K as a potential profit margin. That's huge. But if I sat down to do that myself, I mean, we're talking like years later, I'd probably finally get that done. Right. But ChatGPT can throw me out not the answer to that question. And when I say I mean capital T, capital H, capital E, the answer. Instead, what ChatGPT does, or other AIs, is produce for me a roadmap of examples of ideas that now I have something to hang, as I've always described. It's a Christmas tree I can hang the ornaments on. Before that, all I had was like this box of ornaments and no tree. I'm like, where am I going to put this? Right? How am I going to assemble this into a Christmas celebration, and it's not going to be possible because I have nothing to hang it on. And so ChatGPT allows me to kind of create a tree. It may be a Charlie Brown tree, right? It may not be the tree that we're looking for of perfect height and perfect shape, but it's a tree nonetheless. And so I can then begin to shape and construct exactly what it is I'm looking for. Now, as it relates to working with students and how students use it, well, that's twofold. One is students are going to use it all by themselves, and they're going to think they found the scepter of success in the use of AI, and they're going to be drastically and tragically disappointed. That's my counsel to them. Used alongside of a college consultant or an advisor or a mentor who understands the usage and the tool, both its dangers and its success, it becomes a cape, right? Superman's nothing without his cape, right? So it becomes a cape to like bring them into a world of transformation. Transforming what it is they were unable to articulate into something that makes sense to them, giving them ideas above and beyond that which they were even thought possible. These are the great things that it does to tell them. And before I say that, my next sentence, I understand this is like hugely controversial. And I understand that, unfortunately, we all have this notion of like setting up camp, right? And when I mean setting up camp, I mean like, this is where I'm going to live. I'm going to live and die on this mountain, no matter what. But I really feel like to say to a student not to use it is a disservice to the student, because it truly does provide opportunity. We see that being communicated through Rick Clark. He's mentioned quite frequently the use of ChatGPT and other AIs as a tool to expand ideas and thoughts and broaden the essay. But this is not about whether or not you use ChatGPT to write an essay or not. I will dare say that I've yet to meet a student that would be capable of creating an essay that's worthy of submission, singly, like all by himself, without the foreknowledge of understanding what and how to create a prompt that would lead them in the direction to get the information they need that's in their own voice, right? For me to say that I've written this book with ChatGPT is one thing, but I didn't just put a prompt in there that said, write me a book, right? And give it this title. It went through. You might say, well, it only took you 7 days, but we're talking about 7 days that were solely committed to the process. That was that I was limited to on ChatGPT, because back then you only had 24 entries that you could, 24 prompts. That's it, before it shut you down and put you in timeout for 4 hours, and you couldn't get back in it until 4 hours later. Now they've expanded that to 50, which is great. But nonetheless, it took time. You had to build it. You had to create that prompt and the information background for chat to understand exactly what it is you wanted to do and where you wanted to take it, and the context through which the lens chat would be thinking to create the context. So yeah, that's a lot to answer that question, but yeah.
Well, that's good, because it is. It's not a simple.
No, it's not.
Situation. It's, we've been dealing with AI, I mean, from our phones and, suggested text and suggested emails, Grammarly. I mean, we have all these examples, but now it's just taken to that step further. So, okay. Well, Susanna asked the question, can we see an example of how to use it appropriately? Walk us through how you do it, please. So Mark, here's your task.
How I use it appropriately? That's a vague term, appropriately, because that has parameters for everyone. So before I do that, and I think I do want to demonstrate at least one aspect to kind of show everybody. But before I do that, and to your point, whoever's just asked this question, and thank you, by the way, for the question. is I really feel like as professionals, and I believe all of us in this room, especially, would consider ourselves to be professionals, both represented to the parents as a professional, most importantly, as a mentor and someone to look up to, a professional to the students. And we want to exercise an example that makes sense, right? That would be inspiring. So, to your point, I think it's super important for all of us. And again, this would be different for everyone, but I think it's important for all of us to establish what I refer to as guardrails for yourself. These are uncharted waters, clear and simple. I think it's super important for all of us to establish where it is you are willing to go and where it is you're willing not to go. And you know what? You don't have to explain that to anybody. Like in my world, in my opinion, you don't need to explain that. You just need to know that. You need to know where you stand and know where that limit is for you. And a guardrail, as I'm always reminded, is not the danger zone. It is not the place where danger happens. It is a spot that warns us of the danger on the other side, just beyond that railing. And there's a safety zone before it, usually a nice space with like bumps in the road that make noise to warn you to stay away from the guardrail, right? Before you hit the guardrail. And if you hit the guardrail, yeah, you might bust a nose or two, but you haven't gone over into the danger zone yet. And is to prevent you from getting there. So create for yourself where your guardrails are on your stance. You know personally, I know for myself, and you know personally where and what is right and where and what is wrong. And so with that value system that you have for yourself already in place, create for yourself a guardrail for this new technology, because no one is doing it for you, right? It's a field that's wide open.
Yeah.
And if you just run out into the field, this is where we are. We're confused and dismayed, and we don't know where to go and how to lead. And that, therefore, because of that environment, we create for ourselves a guardrail. And I think that's super important to do. Now, to your
even
point,
the CEO, of ChatGPT and of, the parent company has said, please help me set up these guardrails, and, and we're going to need them. So there is some recognition on that, but it truly is kind of like the wild, wild west right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'd love to demonstrate for you if you would like for me to. I think everybody would like to see something, right? In ChatGPT, I'm going to share my screen here for just a moment. And as I do, bear with me, because we're going to go from one place to another, and it's only as good as my mouse will provide. And I think everybody can see this screen.
Yes.
But what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can get this to move for myself, not for you, but for myself. There we go. There are three different. Let me just kind of introduce to you first. This is the inside of what I refer to as Jasper. I'm Jasper certified, as you may know. And inside Jasper, you have the option to create blank documents, work from templates, and you can actually create art within here, which is pretty phenomenal. I had an experience yesterday. It was pretty cool. But inside the templates, this is like the playground within Jasper that makes most sense for all businesses, both small and large. And this is where you have the opportunity to create some pretty phenomenal content as it relates to many, many different things, to give you, as it says, a simple template to do. Much of this I've used, all of these I've used in one form or fashion, from creating testimony, or this is a testimony helper. It's on beta, and it's kind of a joke for Jasper, but to create lists, create marketing angles as it relates to certain products and services that I provide, blog posts, paragraph generators. This is the one I used just this morning. Excuse me, not this one, is the email. This is the perfect headline. My bad. There's one here that's the email subject line. yeah, so this is just kind of an overview just as I scroll through, so you can just kind of see some of the templates that are available in here that really do produce some amazing content for you as you begin to, there's the email subject line. I knew it was here somewhere, which was pretty cool. But in ChatGPT, this is the other one. Most everyone here is familiar with ChatGPT. There are two options, 3.5 and 4.0. 4.0 is the purchased version, and it is a little bit more dynamic than the 3.5. And then there's a new guy in town called Claude. Many of you may have heard of Claude. I may be introducing you to Claude for the very first time. Claude is pretty cool. I kind of like Claude better than ChatGPT, believe it or not. There's something about their output that is a lot more in depth. And I love the fact that this kind of provides for you a little history of what I've done and it kind of labels it. And you'll see right here, last weekend, I stayed in Knoxville, Tennessee at a hotel, and I had a pretty bad experience there. And so I filled out a survey for that experience. And of course, headquarters emailed me and said they were really sorry. I hope you'll try us again. And that was pretty much all they did for me. And I felt that was pretty lame of a response from them. So I had Claude hook me up with an email response based on their response and my experience. And I sent that thing off and they gave me 5,000 points.
Oh,
Bam, bam,
there you go.
bam. All right. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So let me go in here and I want to show you a little bit about in ChatGPT. So today I want to demonstrate for you how it is I would go about in ChatGPT, and also how important it is for you to see, I think, how this is not just an easy move. Like when I write prompts for ChatGPT to produce content that's large, I give it context and I give it some serious context. As many of you know, I am the Sweet Tea chair for SACAC. I created and developed all the college tours this year for them. And as a result, I had the opportunity to integrate AI into that journey, into those experiences. And I had Chat at the time. Claude wasn't available then, but ChatGPT 4 helped me create school bios for each of the schools. Oh, and I will tell you that I spot checked all of them, right? So I made sure all the information in it was correct, but it was meant to be just kind of a little teaser for each of the schools, just a teaser, it wasn't supposed to be a FIS guide, right? It's just a teaser. And it proved to be very, very insightful. Let me see, I need to cut and paste this prompt so you can see it. So give me just a second as I do. And I am not going to read the prompt, but I'll review the prompt because it's going to be huge. So here's the prompt down here. So I'm going to say here, I'm telling Chat, I talk to Chat like he's a friend of mine because he's working for me. And you will be writing a blog post for Avatar in Niche who has a primary goal. You will be only writing in tone and written by the author. Please only respond with "I understand" if you understand, and do not start writing yet. That's my charge to him. I don't want him to write anything yet. I only want him to understand what it is, the information I'm giving him, and whether or not to him it makes sense. All right. So I've created my avatar. I've created my niche. I created the primary goal. I've created my tone. All of this is in advance. And of course, I'm the author. So I've told them a little bit about myself. So here, I go ahead and execute it. And of course, Chat tells me, what? I understand. That's exactly what I want Chat to do. I want Chat to know that all this information is relevant to what we're about to embark on. And I'm not going to go through the entire process, but I will go to the next step. So then I begin, now that I know that Chat has understood what it is I want them to know, I then enter my second prompt to the process. And in this case, the blog will be about the best way students can process stress and anxiety in the college admissions process. Give me a list of 20 amazing, unique title ideas Make the titles bold and catchy using alliteration, referencing how to solve for avatars' needs and problems. Include a strong and clear promise of what they will learn or receive. So I hit go, and here are my list of 20 amazing, unique titles based on the information that I want to begin writing a blog post about. Now, what's really exciting about this is that I may use one of these 20. In fact, I probably would, but I get to find the one I want. Like, I get to choose it. I also can change it if I want, if it's not what I'm looking for. Here's what's really phenomenal about this, ladies and gentlemen, is not only do I have a title for a particular blog post, but I also have ideas for webinars, workshops, sessions, maybe a workbook, maybe a book itself. You have ideas here. You have more ideas right now than you know what to do with. But this is for just a simple blog. Okay. So that's just a little idea. Now, the reason I had to actually give chat some context here is because, and this is your little mini training for today that I do for many IECs all the time, as I train them what this means. And really what this means is, like, whenever we start a new chat, this is a new brain. So chat doesn't know anything that we've done prior to this, but in this new chat, it's a brand new brain. And if you think of it as when you start a new chat, it's empty. It doesn't know anything. It's only going to reference what it can go find from 2021 and before. And I want to really give it some focus. And so this is me training the brain on what it is I want from him exactly. And so I just need him to understand. I can continue to train him and begin to direct him exactly where I want him to go. In fact, the next steps for this will be to combine the title, combine all of the information from up here into one unique spot. And then we begin to create an outline, and then we work from that outline and create each section. So from there, and without too much more work, we're creating an entire blog post in a matter of seconds. So there, that's just a minor demonstration on how I go about using that.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And I can see where that not only saves time, but it helps generate your creative thoughts and things too. And that's a conversation I was having with my friend this morning about the difference between, the technical side and the creative side. So that's part of one of the concerns. So, Cyndy asks, where do you draw the line with students using ChatGPT? She references a tool to refine sentences, edit, suggest ideas. But at some point, there's a slippery slope where the student might be inclined to use too many of the chat's words and not enough of their own. So how do we approach that?
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a fine line there. So I'm using ChatGPT as a resource for my students to create outlines. I have used it to brainstorm with my students. I actually use ChatGPT live during a Zoom call with one of my students who had no idea what it is he wanted to write an essay about. And with a very unique prompt that I've created, I was able to begin the process of exploring what ideas from his world were relevant. And believe it or not, ChatGPT asked the rest of the questions all by himself. And by the end, it created an entire outline for that student, how to construct the essay and what to include in it. And it was spot on. Now, is he going to write that essay? Yeah, I should. Okay, right. I should hope, right? But we know that he's probably, or maybe some would probably try to venture into that. They're going to get frustrated. By the time they get done with that process, they likely could have had it done just sitting down and writing it themselves. That information that comes back to me on that first draft is going to be noticed, right? You're going to be able to see it, whether or not it's been drafted that way. I think our involvement in the process helps to weed out chat's involvement in their creation. And I think that's really important. Did you get that? Our involvement in their essay helps to weed out their use of chat. But my use of chat is to help get them going. Like, let's get off your buff and let's get moving. You're stuck on ideas. Your thoughts are stuck in, like, I didn't do anything over the summer, right? Really? Let's find something. Like, let's figure something out. And so chat has opened the windows and opened the doors of opportunity and availability far beyond even the questions I can ask, to create an outline and then to put it in an order that makes sense. And quite frankly, that order in that outline, I've done it probably more than 25 times now. In at least 10 of them, I've said, chat, I don't like the introduction outline. I don't think it's compelling enough, and I need a better hook. And it responds to me and says, you know what? You're absolutely right, because a good essay has a great hook. I'm like, well, that's what I'm trying to tell you, right? So sometimes chat is not the all in all, right? So I have to kind of tell chat, look, dude, you're getting it wrong. And let me show you, let me remind you how it is to be done right. Now, give me some ideas. And it says, you're absolutely right. And lo and behold, it grabbed it and said, this is what you probably should like focus on, and transition it this way and put it in this order. And don't forget to end like this. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. So, so how do I use that? Well, then I produce that essay outline for the student and say, here's an idea that you might want to suggest taking. And so use this as a roadmap to your essay, and write it with your own hands. I communicate that to the students, write it with your own hands. Now, when that essay comes back to you, and I know this is going to be a subject for another Friday forum, so I don't want to steal the thunder on that. But when it does come back to me, I have the opportunity to put that essay into chat and ask it to evaluate it in a very specific, unique way. Like, my prompt tells them exactly how to evaluate it. And when it does, it gives me feedback, not the student, gives me feedback on what I should like maybe consider changing or suggesting, or whether or not it's like got a great, like, is it written to an 11th grade level, or is it a 4th grade level? Like, it's giving me information that's relevant for me as the evaluator and the manager of that essay development. So then I provide that human feedback to the student on that essay. And I'm not sure if that answered, or if that was a rabbit trail.
Say that again.
I said, well, I didn't know if that answered the question or if it was a rabbit trail.
Oh, no, I think it was very appropriate. So Michelle asked, what's an avatar? Explain what some of those terms, especially in your prompts that you're using. So
yeah, so an avatar is who's my audience, right? So we're creating an avatar. So in your business, this is going to go back to business 101. Okay, in your business, you market to somebody, right? You write all of the content that you have printed, communicated, talked about, titled, all of that is to a particular audience. That's your avatar, right? Do you know who your avatar is? That's a problem if you don't. If you don't know your avatar, then you can't market effectively, and you can't produce the content effectively to produce the revenue that you're hoping to receive through the services you're wanting to offer, right? So you have to know your audience. And in our industry, oftentimes our audience is twofold, right? It's the parents and the student, and sometimes exclusively one or the other, but sometimes both. And so to create very specific avatars as it relates to whatever it is you're trying to communicate is real important. So that's what I train chat on each time I want to have something. Now, my avatar, when I was writing, having chat write the college profiles, my avatar was high school, college counselors, right? Because that was the majority of the people who were going to be on the bus. and that's who it was marketed to. That's who it was going to be written to. And it wasn't for a parent or a student. Our lens, the lens through which that information was going to be generated, was far different than it would be if I was generating a school profile for a parent, right? Which I have not done. So anyway, yeah.
And I think and that's something from a marketing and a business perspective. If even if you're in a school, knowing who your students are, knowing who the parents are, and having that description so that you can write emails and your website and all your marketing and everything is directed specifically for them. And that's actually one of the areas that I want to do a workshop on.
Yeah. So I'll be doing a workshop, and I know that we've mentioned a little bit about what I've been doing, but I'll be doing a workshop coming up on an avatar alchemist workshop, where we actually work together to create your avatar,
nice.
for the mere purpose of creating more and better content, more focused content using ChatGPT. And of course, we'll have others as it relates to tone and your primary goal, and learning how to put all those components together to get that outcome. Now, a place you can go, I'm going to put in the chat the place you can go so we can continue, and I'll put that in there for people to see.
Okay. So as you're doing that, we are getting a lot of questions about essays. I don't want to delve totally into essays, as we are going to be doing that with Brad Schiller in September. So if we don't get to your questions about essays, please keep that in mind. But you mentioned doing the outlines and how you're doing that with your, for brainstorming for students. And so do you have a specific prompt that you use every time, or is the prompt different for every student?
It ends up becoming very different for every student because of the nature of the prompt. So the prompt that I've created to utilize for this purpose is an interactive prompt. It's a prompt that introduces chat to what it is we're doing and who it is I want him to be. I know that sounds really bizarre, but sometimes when you ask chat to give you something, you want them to be an accountant. So I asked chat, hey, be as an accountant or act as an accountant. Tell me how much, and then you would kind of fill in the blanks, right? For an information that you would expect an accountant to provide you. Or if you want to look through a particular lens of an attorney, say, act as an attorney. What would you say about, give me ideas about, okay. And so chat's going to look through that lens. So I create the lens and then create the prompt to start with an introduction with the student by asking questions. And chat is the leader in this, which is pretty phenomenal. Like, I wish you could have been in the room when I figured this one out, and it performed exceptionally well. I got a little loud inside, so it was pretty fun.
This is introductions for essays, is what you're talking
about. Correct. I introduced chat to the whole concept, and with that prompt, chat then asks the student a question. That question, once answered, prompts chat to ask another question. When that question is answered, it then prompts chat to ask another question. And he'll go through this process about 6 times until he feels like he's gotten enough information to execute what it is I initially asked him to do. And that is create this outline. And at the very end, it says, thank you, sounds phenomenal, and it creates the outline. And I can look at that, and that is where I evaluate whether or not that's an acceptable outline. I mean, we all know what outlines look like. We've been in this industry forever, right? Mm-hmm. Most of us anyway. We've got that experience. We know what a good essay sounds like, looks like, reads like, assembles like. We get that. And so I have that capability. So I evaluate it on my own and then exercise my ability to have chat do a little tweaking if I need to on,
So are you
on
going
whatever
to
section it is.
Are you going to offer training or a webinar for people that they can participate in to watch you do that and learn how to do that with their students?
Yeah, those will all show up in the master class list. If you went to that link, you'll see the master classes that are taking place or have taken place. Because this is my side gig, right? I have students too, and we know what season it is. So I'm doing my best to like get them on the docket. So as soon as they show up, if you want to stay informed, you'll need to click on the stay informed button at the top and just give me your email and name. And that way you'll get an email from me as to when these things occur. Some of them will be for pay. Some of them will be free. It's just the nature of kind of how we spend our time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So I think one of the most interesting things that I hadn't realized that you brought up is that you have to train. ChatGPT doesn't remember, from time to time. Like you have to retrain it every time you come in. You have to, as you said, think of it as a new brain. And
Yeah.
and I think that really points to the big difference between artificial intelligence and human consciousness, because we do remember and we build on that, and ChatGPT and AI is not. So I think that is very interesting. So I see people putting in, please add me to the email list. Go to the link in the chat.
Yes,
so
please.
that you can put your information in, and then that way you'll get automatically added to Mark's list. One of the topics that we hear a lot about, and Sabra brought this up, is sometimes ChatGPT makes up information and you can't always trust the things that it does. So I hadn't heard this term, but it's ChatGPT hallucinations. So how do you guard against that?
Well, you guard against it by reading its output and not copy and pasting and sending or producing or publishing. You can't do that. If I had done that with this book, that you would have laughed me off the publishers list, because it was not right. A lot of repetitiveness, which is, pretty common for chat, because if it didn't understand, it just kind of starts over. It has this hard reset.
Students never do that ever.
No, they don't. but sometimes AI gets hiccups. It is a software program, right? So it's running algorithms. It's running this software run all the time based on the prompt that you've given it. You've got to, everybody's putting their email addresses.
I know. We need you guys to put,
It's okay. It's okay. We'll capture these here and I'll make sure they get in. Okay. So don't worry about that.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. We'll get it.
I don't have Carmen with me today, guys.
It's all good.
So you'll notice we're missing my right hand here.
It's all good. So ChatGPT AI, it has hiccups. Sometimes it will, I've done it and it gave me the weather and I'm like, where did that come from? Right. And so it just happens all the time. The hallucinations occur, and in the event that happens, you just either need to start over, delete it, redirect it. Now, if you're in Jasper, that's phenomenal. Jasper works on the flow. So you could be writing, you could start manually writing the first paragraph of a blog post, give it 2 sentences that you're very interested in, that you've created yourself, and then hit go. And it will take that context and continue writing in the algorithm that makes sense for what it is you're trying to accomplish, and write the entire blog post based on that. That's pretty cool. But sometimes Jasper, and it's run on the back in the background of like ChatGPT type work, right? So it's working in the background, similarly to ChatGPT. And sometimes it will go off the rails. That's what we call it. Like it starts to like go off and wander and then go into the weeds and start talking about something you like, no way, that's not what we're talking about. So you just need to erase it, go back up, write a new sentence to redirect it, and then it will pick back up. So it's pretty phenomenal. It's like a little 4-year-old with a really smart brain, but it still acts like a 4-year-old sometimes.
I love that. I love that.
It's fun.
So is there a free version of Jasper?
There is not a free version of Jasper. If you would like to, if you go to the website that I put the link in the chat, if you go to that website, AI4the IEC.com, you'll see Jasper in some of the, as what looks like little ads on the page. And that's because I am an affiliate of Jasper. So if you chose to like try it out, it has a 7-day trial for free. By clicking that link, you can start your 7-day trial and check it out. I do support training for that all the time, and can walk you through personally if you choose to do that. I just got finished doing that yesterday for an IEC up in Chicago. And I think there's someone in this chat that I just recently did in North Carolina. Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson.
And we will put in the show notes afterwards, I'll put the link to your, to add to your email list and any of those kinds of things. We'll have all of that in the show notes. So ChatGPT has a free version. Isn't that the only one? Is Claude a free version?
Claude is free for now. So you can sign up.
Who's the parent of Claude?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I know the answer to that, to be honest. Oh, yes, I do. It is called Anthropic is the parent.
I noticed that on the screen.
Yeah,
but it's
Anthropic
not from Google or,
No.
Okay. I think when we're dealing with technology, it's always really important to understand like what the parent, what's the motivation? Why is this being offered for free? Where is it going to take me? So
it won't be free for long.
Exactly.
That's the key. It won't be free for long. However, we will encounter it virtually in every aspect of all that we do. So it is slowly getting integrated in most everything. In most of our technology that we subscribe to on a regular basis, you're probably going to start seeing aspects of it to include, for instance, Zoom. We're in Zoom now. Zoom has an AI feature. And so all of AI is being integrated.
MailChimp has an AI feature now. You're seeing it pop up all over. So what do you see as the difference between the free version and the paid version of ChatGPT?
That's a good question. The two versions are very different as it relates to, I want to see if I can, I want to see if it will show me. Sometimes it shows me the disc. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because this is going to show you.
Okay.
That's why I went over here to check it out to make sure that it would do it before I went through all this trouble, because it's a lot of buttons, right? Okay, so here is the screen for ChatGPT, and you'll see up here is ChatGPT 3.5. This is our fastest model, great for most everyday tasks, available to free and plus users. So I can use this one if I wanted to. But over here is ChatGPT 4. This is our most capable model, great for tasks that require creativity and advanced reasoning. And that's the key right there, the advanced reasoning. So it has a limitation of 50 messages every 3 hours, which is funny. It used to be 24, and that was a hoot trying to write a book in 7 days with just 24 messages every 3 hours. But nonetheless, the key here is the reasoning part. It is far more advanced. Therefore, the output is far more advanced and far more in depth. You'll still get a good output in 3.5, but it's just kind of general. Like it's not very specific and not much thought went behind it. It's just kind of meh, right? But 4 definitely brings a whole new flavor to the scene.
Yeah, I think that that is definitely the key. So Marcy made a point. She says you're using ChatGPT with knowledge about grammar and writing. I mean, and you also, there's the key thing here with any AI is building a really, really good prompt. So are we raising a generation of students who will now become dependent on this feature? I think it's related to like when the electronic calculator came out, right? Everybody was worried that students weren't going to learn math or not be able to simple math, which you can argue both directions. In your opinion, when does this become unethical in the college application process?
Wow. When does it become unethical in the college application process? I feel like
You
I
know,
feel like it becomes unethical when you're creating content, not checking it, and submitting it.
mhm.
I think if you're going from A to Z without going through the rest of the alphabet in the process, I think there's a problem. When you completely remove the human component, the evaluator, the rationale, the reasoner, the creator from you being the creator, from the process, and rely solely on the technology, I think that's the problem.
Mhm.
But
Well,
nothing I've demonstrated here today is that,
no. Mm-mm.
right? So that's where I exist in this, because those are the guardrails that I've created. Yeah, because that human dynamic, that human component, that integration of humanity into this process is critical. We're scared it's going to take over our jobs, right? But while it will supplement a lot of the tasks that we perform within our jobs, it should not, and dare I say, will not. That's a hard thing to say, but should not definitely remove the interaction, the human interaction that's most required in our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good point to end with, is that it will not take over the world and it's not going to replace us.
No.
It's going to bring us and to a higher level where we can actually do more, maybe work with more students, be more effective, help our students be more effective, help write their story in a much more authentic way, and personal way. And that's the goal that we want to do. But it is hard. I mean, I'm doing a writing workshop with my students this afternoon, and like, I don't know how to adjust my process that I've already done to incorporate this. I will, but I haven't even spent the time or the energy, and it'll take, like trial and error to figure that out. So that's always the challenge, is getting the time and the opportunity, making that opportunity to explore it so that you become comfortable with it.
Yes.
Like any technology.
Well, I'm going to share a really brief story. I know we're pressed on time, but really brief story, kind of an analogy to that point, right? So all of us and our dear grandmothers, we all remember her in the kitchen, right? And she always measured her flour a certain way and sifted it and created her most special recipe her way. And by far, it is not the way we do it today. And it's a matter of having to learn how to do it differently, right? But it's never going to be the same. It just isn't going to be like grandma's. It's just not.
Well, and that's the thing, is we want to keep up. And this has always been my message in terms of technology, is you don't want to be left behind. No. You want to keep up, because our students are going to be moving forward. And if we don't move forward with them, with our marketing, it's going to save us money, writing blogs, doing, these emails and campaigns. We're going to become obsolete, and nobody wants that. Yeah. So,
but as you learn as you learn AI, whether it be ChatGPT, Claude, or Jasper, or some other form, as you learn it, you'll dream of ways to integrate it, and it will become very clear. Nobody told me or taught me how to integrate AI into my practice or with my students. But what it suddenly made sense, like this makes sense to do this right here. And those light switches will come on. But don't fear learning it. And really learning about ideas, or maybe even asking chat, how can I use this? Right? Go for it. You've got plenty of real estate in the chat box to ask the questions. Don't fear interacting with AI.
I agree. I agree. Mark, thank you so much. This has been just delightful. Just a lot of thought-provoking things, and I'm sure we'll have more conversation. And as I mentioned, everyone, we will be continuing to talk about this. But I have August 17th, I have a workshop on Name Your Price, how to set your rate. If you haven't done that with me yet, please sign up for that. August 18th, that Friday, we're going to have two guests, an IEC, Shannon Bergenon and her son, Sam, and they're going to talk about supporting transgender. It's going to be a mother-son story, and they're going to speak out. And Shannon has put together all sorts of wonderful resources that will be available to you. I'm doing two other workshops, this essay in a box. So, this whole thing about ChatGPT and content gold. A lot of things you're talking about, Mark, like we have content we've developed, or we can easily create it and use it. That's that low-hanging fruit, and use it to build our email list and really build our marketing. So that's what my workshop is there. And then August 25th, I'm going to have 3 colleges come in and talk about demonstrated interest. Does it matter? So we'll have Southwestern, Rhodes, and College of Worcester, and they're all CTL schools. So that's August, and then more for September, and always some thoughts and reactions, ideas. Those are always welcome. And Mark, again, thank you for joining us today. And I love that we had such an active conversation. And thanks for demonstrating. It was
thank you. My pleasure. I loved being here. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.